Welcome to the HaneyBiz Project with Mark Haney. Mark is a serial investorpreneur and the chief dreaming officer of the HaneyBiz companies. He's working tirelessly to ignite the entrepreneurial revolution and share the inspiring stories of the region's most influential leaders. And now, here's Mark Haney.
All right. This is the HaneyBiz Project, and we are on a mission to ignite the entrepreneurial revolution right here in our hometown of Sacramento. You know, most startups fail in that first 5 or 10 years, and many of the rest never unleash their full potential. But we are here to help. This show is about entrepreneurs, helping entrepreneurs, one entrepreneur at a time, one conversation at a time, and that conversation starts with one simple question. Are you hanging? Or are you banging, Marcus?
I am banging, motivated to be here.
Well, I think we had a great show today. We're going to be talking about what it's like when things don't go so well. You know, nobody, Marcus, tell me if I'm wrong on this, nobody goes through life undefeated. But the question is, can we pick ourselves up, and who is by our side when those tough times come? Because we know they come at some point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think anybody goes through life undefeated. And, you know, the person that is by your side the entire way through that struggle is really someone that you want to keep by your side forever. And, you know, at HaneyBiz, we are always by your side.
No question. I mean, it's, you know, hanging is relaxing, right? Hanging is good. And when we're hanging, we're not really struggling. Those are the good times when you're hanging. And when you're banging, that means you are firing on all cylinders. You are winning. But what about the rest of the time? Maybe you are not in the process of winning, but maybe you are. But what about those tougher times, Marcus? I mean, who picks you up during your tough times?
Oh, well, I'm going to have to say that my young 5-year-old son, Hunter, really picks me up when I'm having some downtime.
Well, you know what? Your son started kindergarten.
Today, yeah, first day.
Today was the day.
Thursday,
and now you were telling me about a story about first day or right before the first day of school. They had something where they asked the parents a question. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, we went to the auditorium for orientation, and the principal played a video asking parents who they would like to have lunch or dinner with, and all the parents started spouting.
Anybody dead or alive, right?
Dead or alive, absolutely. And the parents started spouting out celebrities and
Michael Jordan.
Exactly. The people that their favorite artists and all sorts of stuff. And then towards the end of the video, they brought the children on and asked them the same exact question. And you know who the children said that they wanted to spend their time with?
Who?
Their family, their parents, and the people that they get to see that really make an impact on their life every single day.
Isn't that interesting what we can learn from 5-year-olds about the most important people that we may want to have on our side?
Absolutely.
You know that when you're 4, 5, 6 years old in so many cases.
And the things you can do to impact those minds of the people around you too, right? I mean, I think that you have to put yourself into perspective of what am I going to do to maintain that viewpoint from those folks.
Oh, no doubt. And think about what we as parents and grandparents, for me, what our obligation is too in shaping those young minds, right? I mean, in today's society, right, back when you were a kid, I might have been a little tougher on you than what the average parent is today on their children. And, I mean, let me ask you, coach T-ball, right?
Oh, yeah, the Yankees, baby.
How many trophies did the players get? Did each player get a trophy? How many did you give them?
The team mom got all the kids a trophy. But yeah, I think we were at an age 5-year-olds playing their first year of baseball. We wanted to make it fun for everybody, so we did give everybody a trophy.
And you know, if you think about going through the tough times, if you've been coddled your entire life, how does that prepare you for when the tough times come? Because we know they're coming.
Yeah, well, I guess it's looking at it. How are you going to be able to pick yourself up off the ground if you've never been there before, or know what it's like to be through a little bit of pain, to adhere and be, you know, go through some adversity in your life? You know, coming out on the other end always seems to be the most fruitful and rewarding at times that I've had in my life.
So what age do we stop giving the children trophies when they did not win the game? Did not win the championship.
I think when they started keeping score.
Yes, of course. Your kids are 5, 6 years old, and of course they all need to learn to love the game. That is so important. We learn so much from athletics. But the best way to learn is by getting into the game, getting ourselves dirty, and maybe even earning that first place trophy. Second best way to learn is by spending time with the folks who have actually been on the field, earn the trophies by figuring out a way to win. Later in the show, Marcus, we will learn more about your story, uncover a few things about the tough times that you, Marcus Haney, have faced in your 29 years. But prior to that, we're going to be bringing on Vicki Newman, the inspirational speaker and author of the series, How to Love Your Cop. And coming up after the break, we're going to meet Carol Burger, entrepreneur and a woman who is helping people face their tough times every day. Carol is the president and founder of Burger Rehabilitation. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, brought to you courtesy of 5 Star Bank. This is the HaneyBiz Project.
Isn't it nice to finally display your accomplishments, son?
Yeah.
Honey, look at all your awards. That's great.
He's my champion.
Well, I didn't know they made 9th place ribbons.
Oh, Jack, they got him all the way up to 10th place.
Now, back to the HaneyBiz Project with host Mark Haney.
All right. Welcome back to the HaneyBiz Project, brought to you courtesy of Sun System Technology. I'm Mark Haney, and today I am joined by Carol Burger, president and founder of Burger Rehabilitation. How you doing, Carol?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you for joining me, and we're going to talk a little bit about tough times and how you get through those, and you help people with those kind of things every day in your business. But let's get an overview of Burger Rehabilitation.
Sure. Well, this is our 39th year in business. We started, obviously, 39 years ago. And at the time, things were tough, too. Reimbursement was changing. My employers at the time were 2 physical therapists here in Sacramento, and they came to me one day and said, we're not doing this anymore. Too tough.
Oh, wow.
And you can either take it over or go find another job. So I decided that I would take it over.
Just because you can't handle it doesn't mean I can't handle it. I'm Carol Burger.
Well, I wasn't thinking of it that way, but at the time we were doing a lot of work in skilled nursing facilities, and they basically wanted out of that particular aspect of it. So over the first year, we expanded that program, and of course, trying to deal with all the regulatory issues, all the changes that were going on, it was pretty massive. But we started, and we found we were kind of in the right place at the right time. There was a need. And so over that time, we were able to then expand Burger to continue to take on the skilled nursing, the elderly population, as well as open outpatient centers in the region.
Well, tell us what the organization looks like today, because it's not you as the secretary and a few physical therapists. Tell us about the scope of your business today.
Well, we've expanded to be statewide at this point. So we have our corporate headquarters are in Folsom. But we are, and most of our outpatient centers are here in the greater Sacramento region. So we have 13 centers. We've just opened a new one in Rockland.
Nice.
And yes, we're pleased with that. And then in addition to that, we provide contract services for skilled nursing facilities, for acute hospitals, for home health. We provide not only physical therapy, but we provide occupational speech therapy. We really try to look at it as what is the need in the community and what is the need for the patient, the client coming in.
Yeah, and let's talk about that as needs a little bit, because we talk about people going through tough times. Tell us what the patient is facing when they come to Burger.
Well, it runs the gamut. So we have patients who have been injured, who have back injuries, neck injuries, sports injuries, workers' comp injuries, orthopedic. We also treat pediatric cases. We work with neurological issues. We have stroke patients. It really runs the gamut from pediatrics to geriatrics.
Yeah. Well, I can only imagine some of the serious injuries that you see as people rehab, people go through tough times. I mean, is it better to help the people who are going through these tough times? Is it better to help them with tough love, or is it better to sort of coddle them as you work through their improvement?
Well, obviously, that's a good question. Obviously, if you don't do the work, you're not going to see the gain from it. And is there some pain? Yes. I think a lot of it, though, is really helping people learn how to help themselves, particularly with the healthcare market, looking at prevention, looking at how do we actually stay healthy and avoid falls. We're doing something with a balance program, for example, so that if your balance is off, you're at risk. And if you fall, now you potentially have another injury to deal with. So all of these types of things, that to me, after 39 years, is what keeps me interested in this field. Is that the opportunity to find better ways to help people and work with them. And whether that's aquatic therapy, we have pool programs, we have independent gym programs, really finding a way to meet the need of the client where they are.
Well, I mean, I go to CrossFit, so I'm imagining you mentioned that your range of patients goes from, it sounds like maybe the elderly who are working on their balance. I need help with that, by the way. But
if you're over 55, you might need help.
I am almost there. I do need a little help with balance, but I mean, at CrossFit, you talked about no pain, no gain. That's my term, but they say embrace the suck. And I imagine, your team, you have these therapists that have to, I guess, get to know their patient and really what the best way is to help that individual.
Right, absolutely.
And I'm wondering how you bring that group of people together. There's hundreds of these people that work for you.
Yes. Right now we have statewide over 450 employees. Wow. So yes, so really trying to find people that have expertise in a lot of different areas and can, whether it's vestibular or women's health issues or pediatric cases, whatever it might be, trying to help people, trying to make those resources available to them.
And let's talk about your team a little bit. We were introduced by a mutual friend, a woman that used to live a couple houses down from me, Miss Kim Silvers HR. She introduced us. But when I think of Kim, I think of team because she helps with HR-related issues. I want to know about your team and maybe what the executive team looks like because I know there's a family component.
There is a family component, yes. We have, I have 3 sons, actually, one of which has decided he wants nothing to do with healthcare.
So nothing to do with your business.
Exactly, but the other 2, one is a physical therapist. He's actually taking responsibility for opening up the new sites for us. So he is in the Rockland site, Sean Berger. And then
so he must be a go-getter if he's in charge of new sites. He comes in and sort of makes it happen.
Yes.
He moves molecules.
He moves a lot of things, yes, absolutely. He's a treating physical therapist as well and very skilled in that area. So he brings a number of clinical aspects to it. And then my other son, Eric, is involved in everything from administration and IT and business development. So he's very involved as well.
Okay, and what about the rest of the team? We talked about the kind of skill that it takes to help the patients advance. What do you look for when you bring on a physical therapist? I'm wondering how important is empathy as compared to the science?
So the expectation is when we hire a therapist that they finish school, they actually now are coming out at a doctoral level. That is the requirement now. So the expectation is they know what they're doing clinically. Now, having said that, I do think the more experienced that you have, the more years that you have, the better off you are. But we also want those interns. We want those new grads who are bringing some of their own thoughts and their ideas. Coming back to your question about empathy, though, that to me is really probably the bottom line. Can this person relate to the patients that are coming in? Can they anticipate what those needs are going to be? And not everyone can do that.
Yeah.
That's really critical.
And thinking about, this is an entrepreneurial show and so many things in life apply to being an entrepreneur. Empathy is one of those things. You're an empathetic person by nature. How is that empathy, added value to the organization, your personal, style?
That's an interesting question. I think I find myself very often working as a problem solver. That's what CEOs do. That's what entrepreneurs do. Every day, there's a new challenge. There's a new problem to solve. And that keeps it interesting. And I've discovered that I like solving problems. That's fun. I don't like it so much when I can't think of a solution.
That's not fun.
That's not fun. But I do like solving problems. And I think that, just having the ability to do that is great, but I have to remind myself regularly, what is our mission statement? Why are we here? Because particularly in today's environment with healthcare, the problems are enormous and they're not going to be easily solved. So it's very easy for me to get caught up in what the problem is and keep puzzling over the solution. Yeah. And it really helps me. Our corporate office is in Folsom, and it's located above. We have about a 7,000 square foot clinic there with a pool and a gym area. And I love just going downstairs and walking through and seeing who's there and what they're working on and what they're doing. And it reminds me, we have people who've been coming there for a long time on independent programs, and it's keeping them healthy. Yeah, it's really working.
The why, the mission, the purpose, the values, so entrenched in the organization. And I guess that does start at the top, doesn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think if you don't start there, then you don't have it.
Yeah. And just as we kind of close out today, give us your thoughts on Sacramento. You're up to 13 locations here in Sacramento. Tell us about Burger and what you envision for its growth continuing here in the Sacramento region.
Well, things are very different now than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. When we built our Folsom office in 1996, we built a large office, pool, lots of resources and facility benefits there. But what's happening now is that people are really wanting convenience, and time is a big deal. And so if you need physical therapy, I can't tell you how many people said, oh, doctor said I should go and I'd feel much better, but I don't have time.
Yeah.
And if it takes you an hour or 45 minutes to drive to that physical therapy office, and then you're there for a period of time and then another 45 minutes to get back home, you probably won't do it.
Yes.
All right. So what we're looking at, and our clinics, the Rockland Clinic, for example, is small, but it's meant to be a good location and easy for people to access. So we're looking at, what does the client really need right now? They need easy access, they need expertise, they need to have their time respected, they need to not have to wait to get in for service. One of the things that unfortunately that's happening in the Sacramento area right now because of healthcare, in some situations there are major wait times to even get in to see therapy. We don't do that. We try to schedule within 48 hours. We make appointments available, and we want it to be convenient and easy. So when you ask what our plans are, I foresee that we're going to add more offices because it's about accessibility and convenience.
Make it easy to get healthy here in Sacramento. You know, when you're going through the tough times, it's nice to have somebody by your side who is as committed to your health as you are, maybe even picks you up a little bit when you're down. Carol, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. Very insightful stuff. And when we return, we're going to have an opportunity to meet the inspirational speaker and the author of the series, How to Love Your Cop. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, courtesy of Audi Rockland. This is the HaneyBiz Project.
Welcome back to Mark Haney, igniting the entrepreneurial revolution with the HaneyBiz Project.
Welcome back to the HaneyBiz Project, brought to you courtesy of Hub International. I'm Mark Haney, and today I am joined by the speaker and the author of How to Love Your Cop, Vicki Newman. How you doing, Vicki?
I'm good.
Good. Thank you for joining me. You and I know each other some, and you are speaking at our event happening Saturday night, which if you're listening to this on Talk 650, that's tonight. Talk to us about what the message is that you're thinking about for Taste for a Cause for Allegiant Giving.
I'm looking at what it's like to interact with the toll of war as a civilian. Mm-hmm. I got to write a book, a story of a guy who you had on your show not too long ago.
Mr. Spractus.
Mr. Spractus. And the experience changed me and brought about, I was able to interact and interview probably about 20 service members. and just interacting with them, entering into this emotional piece. We asked them what their favorite stories were or the ones that kept them up at night. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, about how sometimes it kept me up at night.
Yeah. Well, you bring, we were talking about empathy earlier on and with Carol, and you bring a very high, I'll call it EQ level to the show. And you have a series called How to Love Your Cop, and you are married to a law enforcement officer.
Yes.
Talk to us about the empathy needed in order to be married to a cop.
Oh, well, when we first got married, it was almost 30 years ago. He changed. I married him before he became a police officer, and then after he went through the academy and then on the streets, he changed. And I'm asking around, and I'm going, what am I going to do? This is not exactly the same guy that I married, and what do I do? And so we've learned there was nothing there for us back then. And we were in the middle of L.A. Nobody was talking about their relationships. I didn't know anybody. And so we pretty much had to make it work. And so a lot of trial and error, a lot of tears.
And now your cause is about how to love your cop, because not only does that, have you felt the difficulties firsthand in being married to somebody in law enforcement, but your friends are, in many cases, facing something similar.
Yes. Once you get involved with law enforcement, a lot of times your schedules will dictate who you hang out with. And so we've got a lot of friends that are cops, and so over the years, that's who we spend our time with. And we have friends who are not in law enforcement as well. It kind of helps with the balance a little bit, and I encourage people not to just hang out with cops, you know. But yeah.
Well, cops see things as do folks that go off to battle in Afghanistan or Iraq or Vietnam. They experience things that I guess the average citizen here can't really understand, or maybe you can understand it somewhat as a spouse. How do you help them besides just to love them?
Well, the first thing is education. We need to understand who our spouses are. And that's the one thing is when my husband changed, it was because he was dealing with things that he'd seen only for the first time in his life. We were, college students when we got married. And then all of a sudden he's seeing things on the streets of LA that, things that canines do and things that people do to each other and horrible accidents. And he's having to come home and process that as a very compassionate man who wants to make a difference in the world. That tends to change you a little bit. You've got to, or he had to learn how to toughen up. And because of that, so did I.
And what did that look like? I'm envisioning the need to, a marriage is a partnership, and you can't be there just coddling your husband. We talked about that at the beginning of the show. Coddling, it only works to a certain extent. Sometimes you actually need tough love along the way.
Yeah, I had to find my voice. A lot of times, early in our marriage, I'd basically let him be and do and say whatever he wanted to, and then once in a while, then I'd blow up and come undone, and after a while, as we learned to communicate, as we learned to navigate the life that he was, the career, I had to find my voice because there were times when I don't think he even realized that he was actually being hard on me and treating the kids certain ways. And so I had to find my own voice and exercise that tough love.
Now you've started an organization. You've written a book. You've also started an organization that helps others to sort of face those challenges. What does that look like?
Well, I wrote A Chip on My Shoulder, How to Love Your Cop with Attitude. I wrote that about 6 years ago, and then a couple years ago I wrote A Marriage in Progress, and that was the first one was for spouses. That was my story, our story, and then the second one was for officers because it takes two. And I had heard a lot from the spouses saying, okay, well, if I do some of these things, yeah, it'll help, but man, this marriage takes two people. And I thought, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Let's look at it from their point of view, too. Yes.
Exactly. And so I was able to say...
Finally. Come on now.
I was able to say some of those things that people wanted their spouses to hear. And I gave them words. So, but at the same time, there's, that it's a partnership. It is, like you said, it's learning about each other and growing together and finding your voice and using it wisely and not as a weapon. And so I wrote those two books, but also I do seminars and speak and different things and just bringing ways to communicate, ways to resolve conflict, ways to empathize with each other in this, as we navigate this, 20, 30-year career.
Well, today's law enforcement officer faces things, obstacles, challenges that the police officer of 30 years ago didn't face. We know that there are a group of our society, the crazies, I guess I will call them, that don't respect police officers and the way they put their lives on the line, and for them for the police officer to have to deal with that disrespect has got to be enormously frustrating. I don't know what emotion comes out of your husband when these Blue Lives Matter things are being forced to be started. I mean, this is unbelievable.
These last 4 years have been very difficult on the family, absolutely. Not only are we hearing it from the media, but we're seeing it on Facebook. And that's the number one thing that I hear from other wives is that they are having to defriend even family members and close friends and people that they've known for years because they are spewing hate towards police officers. And they're like, well, wait a minute. This is my husband you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
this is a guy you're going to call when stuff hits the fan tomorrow at your house. What happens tomorrow when he shows up at your house to get rid of the bad guy? Exactly. And, I think our officers are trained to some degree to deal with that because it's always been around, always. But I think now, because of social media, it's more, we hear it more, and we're getting it from more than just the streets. It's once they're off duty and they're out of uniform, usually they're good, right? But not these days. These days, you go home and it is in your face. You've got people showing up at your doorstep. If you are out in the news, you've got your address being put over social media, different things like that. We're seeing that right now here in Sacramento area. So it's rough. Yeah. That's tough. Well, I mean, as entrepreneurs, as people with businesses, we need to keep our places of business safe. We need to respect the fact that people are out there fighting overseas, but also right here in our neighborhoods to protect our way of life. And so I always think, we discuss this on the show, what can I do? I need to go all in on what I'm trying to do, which is building businesses and helping people build businesses, because there are people like your husband that are fighting so that we have the freedom to chase these entrepreneurial dreams.
Exactly. And, that is the goal. Most officers, I would say probably 98%, go out or go into this line of business because they want to make a difference. They want to change lives. And they're human, and they make mistakes. And I think that's probably the biggest thing is when you come into contact with an officer, you're usually mad, you're bad, or you're sad of some sort. And so officers see the most negative piece of humanity and that has its own difficulties in the emotional makeup of officers, because a lot of times they'll get jaded, or they're seeing the same thing over and over and over, and it's not necessarily a racist attitude. It's a just I've seen this over and over and over again.
There's a coping mechanism that kicks in. Look, we're out of time. Vicki, I appreciate you coming on the show. If you want more Vicki Newman, come out to Taste for a Cause at Randy Peters Catering. It will be tonight, Saturday night, 6 o'clock. I think you got to buy the tickets online, so if you want the tickets, email me or something. But she'll be out there to share her story and the story and helping us raise money for our Action Track chairs for the military. Anyway, I want to thank you for coming on the show today, Vicki. And when we return, we're going to have something happen on the show that we've never done before. I'm actually going to interview Marcus Haney about a few of his most brutal moments and where he found the strength to persevere. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, courtesy of the Entrepreneurs Organization of Sacramento and law firm Greenberg Traurig. This is the HaneyBiz Project.
And now, back to the HaneyBiz Project with investorpreneur Mark Haney.
Welcome back to the HaneyBiz Project, brought to you courtesy of the accounting firm Clifton Larson Allen. I'm Mark Haney, and I am rejoined by Marcus Haney, and we've been talking about tough love. We've been talking about coddling. We've been talking about all kinds of stuff. But that kind of brings up the idea of adversity. You've experienced a few setbacks in your time, huh, Marcus?
I think I've had one or two.
One or two.
Yeah,
so now,
depending.
okay, so you were in the Marine Corps, so you learned how to kill people and break things. Now, along the way, there must have been some adversity. You are a single parent. That cannot be easy. But you're also a business owner, man. You're an entrepreneur. You're one of us.
Yes, part of the good crew.
Which, we're talking about who you want by your side. Who do you want by your side as you go into the battles that you are encountering in your life moving forward?
Well, in the Marine Corps, the people that I want by my side, we have a term for them. It's called assault dog.
Okay.
And that's someone who, has a few scars, has some battle stories.
Okay.
A guy that's been there, done that a little bit. Someone that you can lean on and know will always be by your side.
You don't want the guy that's going to run away when the Taliban is
when they
breathing
hear
at
the
the
first
door.
pew pew. Yeah, no, I don't want that guy on my team too much.
Okay. So thinking about as it relates to that, so let's talk a little bit about your Marine Corps experience. So who you want by your side in the Marine Corps? He or she would have, I guess you didn't have a lot of women by your side in the trenches, I guess on the battlefield, but in terms of life today, you still want that same person by your side as you enter the civilian world. Am I right?
Well, no doubt. I mean, I think whether in the civilian world, in the business world, or in the military, you want someone who's going to be by your side, have your back when the going gets tough.
Who is that for Marcus Haney?
Well, I mean, luckily I've got you and Mom who have, perfectly parented me.
We haven't ran away yet.
No, you guys didn't run away. Well, I tried to run away, but I didn't get very far. Yeah, exactly. But no, in all honesty, I think that you guys parented me perfectly, and I wouldn't be half the man I am today. But I also have my wonderful girlfriend Tori, who is a great person by my side, and always looking out for what's best for the overall. And I couldn't ask for anybody better there.
So thinking about your, Purple Heart Day was just the other day. I noticed that. I noticed, and a lot of people don't know this, but on the license plate of certain vehicles, there's this little tiny purple emblem. It looks like a little medal. And I had never seen one before I saw yours. I didn't even know what it was. I saw one yesterday, though, interestingly enough. And I went by and gave him a little, fist bump type thing. And anyway, tell us about your Marine Corps experience and what led to that adversity, that adversarial time in your life, right, when you deployed. Okay. I know when you deployed, you had a few months later, a month later, your son was born while you were in Afghanistan. Shortly thereafter, You were wounded, and then you had the rehab that went on. I guess it still happens in a certain way.
Yeah, so a little backstory. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I was in 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, based out of 29 Palms, California, 29 Stumps, as we like to call it out there. Got the best training in the United States military, bar none. My second deployment was to Sangin Valley, Afghanistan, which most people probably see in the news today, and has been one of the most dangerous places in the world for a few years now. And I ended up getting myself shot because I'm not fast enough, I guess. And,
Were you running?
I wasn't, but no, I should have leapt. Anyway, I got shot in June 6, 2012. Came back to the United States and had numerous surgeries and did my rehabilitation at the Balboa Naval Hospital there in San Diego with the best doctors in the world. I mean, I got some great treatment from the Navy folks over there, and they really do some great things for the folks who are out there on the battlefield. Fast forward, I ended up getting divorced from my wife. I moved back to Sacramento area to be the father that I know my son needs. And then I started an entrepreneurial business, and but yeah, there was times of adversity when I didn't know if I was going to be able to keep my leg or walk ever again.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You're in San Diego, and I remember you had I think 4 surgeries. You're still wheelchair bound, but we're riding around in this van.
It's a sweet wheelchair.
And yeah, it was. But you were still kind of out of it. It was a week or two after you had got out of the hospital, and I was trying to identify with what you were going through, and I couldn't. But there was a moment when we were riding in the van, and you got some news about your buddy Chris, and he had gotten blown up.
Yeah.
And I know that added to your own feeling of, it set you back again in a certain way.
Yeah, I got word that one of my best friends, Chris, had been hit by an IED. And was in critical condition, unsure of whether he was going to make it out of the situation or not. I remember having to pull over, if I remember correctly. I had to pull over and really take that in, because when you leave a combat zone like that, and throughout the whole show we've talked about people who you want by your side, and Chris is the perfect person you would imagine always wanting by your side, and leaving my folks and my brothers over there still in harm's way, and I am back here. Obviously I was injured, but just the fact that I knew I wasn't that guy that they could no longer count on as being that guy by your side is really kind of an interesting feeling, and knowing I couldn't be there for Chris, and I think that was probably the biggest feeling I had was I want to take whoever hurt my friend out back and give him an old-fashioned Marine Corps whooping.
Yeah. So those challenging times, you think about why, some things are just sort of unexplainable. As a parent, things are out of your control when it comes to your children. They're going to live the life they live, and there are things that you just can't control. But as you were rehabbing, and you couldn't control what was happening with your friends back on the battlefield, but sometimes we have to bounce back and kind of focus on what we can control. What did you do?
Well, I decided that I was going to walk.
Yeah.
I decided I was going to get up, and I wasn't going to feel sorry for myself. I wasn't going to be the guy who was looked at and thought, oh, man, my friends are out there fighting still. My buddies are getting hit by IEDs. I wanted to get back on that battlefield. I wanted to get back out there and run into a situation that I could be helpful. And so what I did instead was I decided I was going to get myself in good shape in any way I possibly could. I couldn't really move my leg or whatever, but I would go to the physical therapy place and do squats and wheel myself around the hospital ward on a rolly chair to gain any sort of strength in my leg I could possibly have. And I really relied on Chris. Came to Balboa Naval Hospital a month or so.
Your buddy who had gotten blown up.
My buddy who got blown up he ended up in now Balboa Naval Hospital, and he moved into my house with me, and we both arm in arm back-to-back fought through the adversity of getting combat wounded and
let's get back into shape together. I
Yep.
remember that as you guys going to the gym and hanging out with you guys. I'm like, man, I just thought I was so thankful that you, in a way, that you had Chris by your side with you being down in San Diego, and thinking to myself as a parent, the tough love that I gave you all through your childhood,
Yeah, I didn't know there was any other kind. Yeah.
average. I wasn't in that mode anymore. I became the coddling parent. My son being wounded, it sort of changed my perspective on the tough love, I guess, paradox.
Yeah, it's interesting now that I'm a father looking at, my young son. He's 5 years old, and what my job as a parent is to ensure that he is the best possible man. And I take the lessons that you taught me as a kid growing up with a tough love, but I also try to give him some of that daddy love too.
Yeah.
That
you
all- that
only can
always-
get from your dad,
Absolutely.
right?
So, I look at that and know that my job on this planet, on this earth now, is to ensure that my young son is a good human. And if I can look every day in the mirror and know that that's going down, then I feel success.
Marcus Haney sharing his story of adversity and the story of how Chris Bogner was always by your side. We're going to come back in a little while and talk a little bit more about our closing thoughts, but we got to tease next week. Next week we got Paul Porter. He is with Premier Franchise Management, a pool company, and we got Lance Loveday, CEO of Closed Loop Marketing. He's also the chairman of Sacramento's Entrepreneur Organization. Again, I want to thank Vicki Newman for coming on the show, and Carol Berger. They shared their stories today.
Can I give a quick shout out to our friends over at 5 Star Bank?
Yes, you may.
And then to our friends over at Moneta Ventures. You guys do some wonderful things for the entrepreneurial community. We would be nowhere without you guys. So thank you for always being by our side.
As entrepreneurs, we are not alone. Join the revolution at HaneyBiz.com, courtesy of Ethan Conrad Properties and Financial Advisors, Stifel Financial. This is the HaneyBiz Project.
Welcome back for Mark's takeaways from today's HaneyBiz Project.
Welcome back to HaneyBiz Project, brought to you courtesy of Silver's HR. I'm Mark Haney. Today we've been talking about hard times, talking about that nobody goes through life undefeated, but who is by your side is so important. I think Marcus made it pretty clear that family has helped him out, and Chris Bogner, who was always by his side coming back through their rehab together, was so important. And I think we got that from Carol Berger, and I think we got that from Vicki Newman too. You need somebody there by your side. Sometimes it's with the tough love, but it's cool to have family. And so I guess this is our time when we jump to story mode. Mark Haney going to tell a quick story as we wrap up the day, thinking about a tough time in my life as relates to entrepreneurship, something that I felt like I had some control of, but none of us really had control of the 2008 financial crisis. None of us could have completely predicted that was coming, even though there were hints. In 2007, we had about 300 employees, and we began to cut back, and I think by September 15th, I think we were down to about 200 employees. We had scaled it back through 2007, and we were happy we did, because on September 15, 2008, Lehman Brothers filed bankruptcy, and we went from $20 million a month in sales to like almost none, like $5 or $6 million a month, and it started dropping from there. So what we were going to do, I mean, the biggest companies in the world were struggling. The financial crisis had begun. What do you do? And I thought back to this story that I read in the book, Good to Great. And it was about Admiral James Stockdale. And it was really about the Stockdale paradox, where he was the longest living POW in the Hanoi Hilton in Vietnam. He was there for years. And it was like, Admiral, how did you survive? And he was like, you have to face the brutal facts as we know them, while never losing faith that in the end, everything's going to be okay. It's that unwavering faith that gets you through. And so as we began the financial crisis as a company, we had some of the toughest decisions we had to make. We had mass layoffs, we had restructuring pay, and it was some of the most gut-wrenching times of my life. And I just remember going back to the book in my mind, the Good to Great book, and facing those brutal facts, keeping that unwavering belief, but also about family. We had created a 17-person executive management team that we had named the family. And it was those friends, those family members that had built our company, and we had become family. We called each other family. And so as we made those tough cuts, as we made those tough choices in business that we all are going to have to make again at some point, I just think to myself, if I didn't have that family by my side, where would I have been when so many of these companies were failing? Lehman Brothers, gone. Circuit City, gone. So many of them did not survive. And I would submit to you that the reason that we survived that horrible time is family. And I guess, if I'm not yet on one of those teams that is willing to go to war together, if my life is not moving in that direction now, I got to face the brutal facts, right? I got to face the brutal facts as I know them. I have to maintain my unwavering belief in myself and in my family. And if I'm a CEO entrepreneur, I know good times don't last forever. I know the music is going to stop at some point, and when that next crisis happens, I know I can't do it alone. I got to face the brutal facts as I know them. I got to maintain that unwavering belief in myself, and I got to lean on my family. And as leaders of Sacramento and the entrepreneurial community, we're seizing right now. The grass is looking greener, and we're seizing opportunities here in Sacramento. We're all doing that right now. But we know there are challenges ahead. Whether it be the next housing bubble or some disruptive innovation or this over-reliance that we have on state government here in our region. Now is the time for us to face the brutal facts, believe in ourselves, and come together as a family. Marcus, thanks for coming me on the show, sharing this moment with me, sharing your story, and may we give you and the leaders of hometown patriotism a salute from all of us entrepreneurs, right? To what you do, to what Vicki Newman does, to what Carol Berger does, and to you, and to all law enforcement and all the folks that are fighting for our freedom, security, and our way of life. To the 13 stripes, and to the 50 stars, and to the one American family, always worth fighting for. Yours. Never above you, never below you, always by your side.